Picture two men standing in the same checkout line. Same jacket, same haircut, same tired Tuesday face. One of them has $8,000 to his name. The other has $480,000. Nothing you can see is different. But within the next 12 minutes, the world is going to treat these two men like completely different people, and neither of them fully understands why. Because money does something strange long before you ever feel rich. It quietly changes how other people behave around you. The clerk, the banker, the neighbor, even old friends. Automatically, and usually without them realizing, they are doing it. There are 3 specific net worth levels where this shift happens. 3 invisible lines where the way the world treats you simply changes. And the third one surprises almost everybody, because it is the opposite of what you would expect. I call it the invisible scoreboard. You cannot see it, you never agreed to play, but everyone around you is quietly keeping score. And at certain numbers, the rules of the game change. Stay with me to the end, because the third level is the one that actually sets you free, and almost everyone chases the wrong part of it for their entire life. And this is not about vanity or impressing strangers at a party. The way the world treats you quietly decides the interest rate you are offered, the opportunities that reach you, and how seriously your own plans get taken when you walk into a room. That scoreboard is constantly pricing your entire life, whether you want it to or not. So it is genuinely worth knowing exactly where the lines are. The first line sits right around $100,000, and almost nobody tells you what really happens the day you cross it. Below that number, the entire system treats you as a risk. To a bank, you are a thin file and a low balance. To a lender, you are someone who might not pay them back. So you get the higher interest rate, the smaller limit, the polite no. The cruel part is that this is the exact moment borrowing feels most expensive and most tempting. It compounds socially, too. When you have very little, people quietly treat your opinions about money as cute, not credible. You can say something genuinely smart and watch it land on deaf ears, simply because the scoreboard behind you reads low. Then you cross 100,000, and the machine changes its mind about you. The same bank that ignored you starts sending offers. The loan that felt impossible gets approved at a better rate. People begin to ask what you think before they make a decision. Here is what nobody admits. Nothing about you actually changed. You did not get smarter the day you hit 6 figures. You simply stopped looking like a risk. That one shift is the whole difference. Take a man like Gary. For years, Gary felt invisible at his own bank. Long lines, blank stares, a polite no on almost everything he asked for. The week his balance crossed that first line, a personal banker called him by his first name and offered him a coffee. Same Gary. Same worn suit. Different scoreboard. So how do you actually cross this first line? Not with a clever trick. You cross it by becoming boring on purpose. You spend less than you earn. You automate the gap into low-cost index funds, and you let time do the heavy lifting. The first 100,000 is brutally slow, and it is still the most important money you will ever build. And there is a reason so many people never even reach it. Somewhere around $30,000 or $40,000, the early excitement wears off. The balance still feels painfully small, and quitting starts to feel reasonable. That is the lonely valley where most people quietly give up, often a year or two before the line where everything would have changed. If you can push through that boring middle stretch, You are already doing what almost nobody else will. The second line sits around $500,000, and the change here is quieter, but far more powerful. At the first level, you stopped being a risk. At the second level, you start being an opportunity. And that single word flips the entire direction of every relationship you have with money. Below this number, you chase. You apply, you ask, you hope someone says yes. Above it, people start coming to you. The advisor returns your call within the hour. Deals get offered before they are ever advertised. The same request that used to get a flat now gets a, "Let me see what I can do for you." There is a reason for this, and it is not flattery. At $500,000, you have become the exact thing every institution is competing for. You are no longer the customer they tolerate. You are the customer they are afraid to lose. And people treat what they are afraid to lose very, very carefully. And something else begins here that quietly changes the whole game. At this level, your money finally starts earning a serious paycheck of its own. Around $500,000 invested can throw off $20,000 a year or more, year after year, without you lifting a single finger. For the first time in your life, the scoreboard is working while you sleep. But there is a strange loneliness that shows up here too, and almost nobody warns you about it. Some people start treating you like a resource instead of a person. The calls get a little more frequent right before they need something, and you learn to hear it in the first 10 seconds. Watch what happens to someone like Dave at this level. Dave noticed that his advice suddenly carried weight in every room, even on things he knew nothing about. People assumed the money meant he was right. That is the quiet trap of the second line. The world starts agreeing with you for the wrong reason. Quick, honest note before we keep going. None of this is financial advice. It is just what tends to happen out in the real world. Your numbers and your situation are your own, so take what fits and leave the rest. Now, back to it, because the third level is where everything you assumed gets turned completely upside down. The third line is $1 million and beyond. And here is where almost everyone guesses wrong about how it actually feels. You would expect the treatment to get even more dramatic. More doors, more deference, more people falling over themselves to help. And from strangers and from institutions, that is exactly what you get. Doors open before you even knock. But here is the twist that catches people completely off guard. The people who actually matter, your real friends, your family, the ones who knew you long before the number, they do not change at all. They treat you exactly the way they always did. After a lifetime of the scoreboard moving, that steadiness feels almost shocking. And that is the moment the whole game finally reveals itself. Once you have crossed all 3 lines, you can see the scoreboard for what it always was. It was never measuring you. It was only ever measuring the number standing behind you. Think about a woman like Nancy. By the time she crossed the 3rd line, she expected to feel powerful. Instead, she felt clear. The strangers treated her like royalty, and it meant nothing to her. Her sister treated her exactly the same as always, and it meant everything. That contrast taught her more about real wealth than any spreadsheet ever had. That is the real freedom at the top. Not that everyone finally treats you well. It is that you stop needing them to. The opinion of the scoreboard slowly loses its grip on you, and for the first time, the noise goes quiet. And crossing this last line is less about money than people think. The math is the same as it always was. Spend less than you earn. Invest the difference. Repeat for a very long time. What actually changes is on the inside. You stop performing wealth for an audience, and you start using money as a tool for a life. And the clearest sign that you have truly crossed it is surprisingly quiet. You start saying no without flinching. No to the deal that does not quite fit. No to the people who only appear when they need something. No to the whole exhausting version of your life that was built just to impress strangers. That simple freedom to say no, calmly and without guilt, is the real return on the money. So there they are, the three invisible lines, laid out plainly. Around $100,000, you stop looking like a risk. Around $500,000, you turn into an opportunity. And somewhere past $1 million, you no longer need the scoreboard at all. Three quiet numbers that completely rewrite how the entire world chooses to treat you, long before you feel any different on the inside. So here is the part most people get exactly backwards. They spend their whole life chasing the treatment, the respect, the doors that open on their own. But the treatment was never the prize. It was only ever a side effect of becoming someone who no longer needs it. Now, think back to those two men in the checkout line. Same jacket, same haircut, same tired face. The world will treat them as different people, and the world is not going to stop. But the one who understands the invisible scoreboard has something the other one never will. He knows the game is rigged. He knows the three lines that move it. And he knows the real win was never being treated like a millionaire. It is no longer caring whether you are. Tell me in the comments which line you are working toward right now. Just type the words Level 1, Level 2, or Level 3, and I read every single one. And if this made you see money a little differently, the next video is the one you should watch right now.